Okay, so we're going to look at creating zooms and pans. We're going to start with a very slow zoom out, and then we're going to just pan it as well. We're going to use a clip of a surfer, and basically we're going to start off zoomed in on the surfer. I'm going to slowly zoom out to show the whole scene, and also we're going to just do a bit of a pan so the camera tracks the surfer a little bit more closely as well. Okay, so first of all, we bring our clip, obviously bring the clip into the timeline, which I've done. Click on the clip, go up to effect controls in the source window, and you'll see that we have a scale property here. Now we can use scale to control the zoom. All right, so we're going to start off. If we click on the timer next to the scale property, we'll start off quite zoomed in. So we can increase that value, so we're zooming in. Okay, and then we're going to move the playhead to the end of the clip. Okay, and we're going to finish with it fully zoomed out. So if I just change that value, the scale value, to 100, you'll see that we now have two keyframes here. We've got the first keyframe, which is at 159 zoomed in that we start with, and then that slowly decreases to 100 for the last keyframe at the end. Okay, so that's our slow zoom out. Now we might decide that we want to track the movement of the surfer a little bit more closely. So if that's the case, we can also adjust the position properties here. So if we go to the position properties, and again, if we've got the X and Y properties here. X moves the footage horizontally, Y moves it vertically. So if we want to adjust maybe the X value a bit here at the beginning, maybe just try and move the subject in a bit more towards the centre. Because if we move it too far, we start to see the edge of the footage, so we don't want to do that. So I'll move it in a bit. Now you might find that as you move along, the subject starts to move away from the centre. If that starts to happen, so you just have to manually scrub it along. Again, you can move it to the point where you think it's moving a bit too far away from the centre, and we can adjust again, and we can move it back in. And again, sorry, crucial thing not happened here. I've not clicked on the timer next to position, so I'll do that now. And then I will change the X value, and then I'll move that along a bit, and as the subject starts to move off centre, again I can just adjust that and move it back, moving back towards centre. So you can see it just has this effect of sort of bringing the subject a bit more centrally into the frame. Now you've got to watch for what can happen is you can start to see the edge of the footage at certain points if you're not careful as well. So just check for that, and you just have to tweak and adjust to make sure the edge of the footage isn't visible at any points. So I'll just do that, bring that to the end and adjust that. There we go. And then obviously the scrub through, and that's all looking okay. We have our slow zoom out, and we have the subject, the surfer, reasonably central, as central as possible. Okay, so again, it's sometimes interesting if I just drag in the original clip here, again a copy of the original clip, and then we can do a quick comparison. So this is the original clip. If I hide that, you can see our new zoomed and pan clip underneath, and we can see the difference at various points. If I move it to the middle, and again hide the original clip, we can see the new zoomed and panned version. Okay, so it can sometimes help just to, you might decide when you do the comparison that actually you want to go back to the original clip, so this is a good way of just really checking which one you prefer. Okay, so you might decide, there are different lots of different ways of zooming and panning. You might decide at the other end of the spectrum you want to do a very dynamic zoom in and out, very quick one, maybe synchronise with a kind of whooshing sound effect. So what we have here is we've got a whooshing kind of sound effect here, so I'll just play it you. Ooh, hang on. Playhead. So a kind of whooshing sound effect like that, and I might want to synchronise a very dynamic zoom in and out with that. Different ways of doing this. You can do the zoom first and then bring the sound in, or you can bring the sound in and zoom. I think probably can be easy to zoom in sync with the sound once you've brought it in. So if we see what can be useful here, we have the waveform of the sound here. Let me just zoom in a bit more there. So you can, sorry, going off. Back in, there it is. So we've got our zoom sound here, so I'll just play that again. So we want to kind of zoom in at this point and then zoom out at this point. So if I move the playhead to the start of the clip here, the start of the audio clip, okay, click on our video clip and go to Effect Controls, and then you'll see that the playhead on Effect Controls is at this point that I've set it to here. So this is really starting to look at synchronization as well, which can be really, really important, you know, and just fine-tuning things. So again, we know how to do a zoom, so if I select scale, that will automatically insert a keyframe at this point. Okay, now at this point we want to set a keyframe, okay, and then so the zoom is as normal, and then at the point where the whoosh sound starts, so we can just nudge the playhead in a bit. You can use the arrow keys, left and right arrow keys can be helpful with this for sort of moving frame by frame. So if we press the right arrow key and just move into the start of the sound on the waveform here, and then at this point we can zoom in, yeah. And if we just zoom in on Effect Controls here, you'll see here we actually now have 2 keyframes. So I can't emphasize enough the importance of being able to zoom in on things to really see frame by frame what's happening when you're doing very kind of intricate zooms like this, yeah. So we've gone very quickly from normal frame to zoom in here. So let's just play that. But then we want it to, at this point when we hear the second whoosh, we want it to zoom back out again. So again, if we move the playhead to the start of this second whooshing sound, and again if we zoom in on the keyframes, you can see that the playhead mirrors what's happening here. And we can again just set this back to 100, and that automatically inserts a second keyframe here. So we now have our three keyframes. Now the really useful thing with this as well is once you've created the 3 keyframes, they're not set in stone. You can start to tweak them and adjust them. You might find that you even want to just extend the view here. So again, you know, playing with the Windows view here. So I've got more of a view of the keyframes here, just for this part. So let's find the sound. So we go to here, and let's just play that through and see how that's looking. Okay, now we might decide that the not quite working as we'd intended. We might decide that this zoom out here is a bit too slow. There's a bit too much of a gap here, so we can bring that in. Does that work any better? And then it really is a question of just playing with the moving the keyframes and testing. Okay, so we might decide it's a bit too quick. and we can just space them out a little bit more. Okay, so I hope you get the general principle of that. I'm not going to spend ages playing with it now in the tutorial because it's perhaps not that much fun to watch. But you can see how it's working a bit better now. I think we've got more of an even space between the zoom in and the zoom out. So that's essentially what we've got here, haven't we? From here to here is a zoom in, from here to here is a zoom out. And we've synchronized that with the whooshing sound. Okay, final thing just to mention is easing. Again, really useful. So what we could do is we could add an ease into the first keyframe. So what that basically does is, so if I just right click on that and select ease in, that means that it starts off slowly and speeds up as it zooms in. And then the sort of inverse of that is we can put an ease out on the second keyframe, on the third keyframe, should I say. So that means that when it starts to zoom out again, it starts off quickly and slows down. So we get this, it just can add to the kind of dynamism of the effect. Again, very subtle, but now we've got it starting off slowly, speeding up, and then slowing down again. Okay.